You're watching the show that puts Mid-Michigan news in focus. This is Focal Point.
Some would say it takes a village to raise a child. However, what happens when that village has 10% of their parents in prison? More on that in Focal Point.
Coming up on Focal Point, find out how new health grocery stores are creating some competition.
And up next on Focal Point, see how some senior Spartan engineers are showing off their projects. Focal Point starts now.
A new study says that 1 in 10 kids have a parent in prison, which could affect on their development. That's our top story tonight. Good evening, I'm Erin Eschels.
And I'm Connor Hansen. Welcome to Focal Point. Having a family member in prison isn't only tough for the kids, but also on the parents. Focal Point's Matt Miller shows us how one father is making up for lost time.
Yeah, let me see.
Growing up, Corey Morris didn't have the closest relationship with his father,
My father's in prison right now. He's doing life.
which led to Corey getting involved in crime himself.
I grew up in the streets and I took to selling drugs, you know.
And for that, Corey did 4 years in prison.
It's actually as traumatic as experiencing abuse or domestic violence.
That's Alicia Guevara-Warren, the Kids Count Director at the Michigan League for Public Policy.
When they lose their parent to incarceration, they're more likely to experience depression or anxiety issues.
Unfortunately, Corey's story isn't unique. In fact, according to one study, 1 out of 10 Michigan kids has had a parent incarcerated. That's over 200,000 kids. And for Corey, he wasn't the only one in his family to be growing up with a parent in prison.
I'm Maya, she's 4. Sweet little girl.
During his incarceration, Corey missed the first years of his daughter's life.
I couldn't see her first steps, you know, I hear her first words, you know, and I thought she wasn't gonna be able to remember me.
With his whole life ahead of him.
Stepdad, I want to be the best father. We'll go to like the libraries and I'll read some books to her. We'll go out to eat.
Corey plans on making the most of his second chance.
Brother, stepdad.
In Lansing, Matt Miller for Focal Point News.
Truly.
The study was released by the Annie E. Casey Foundation. A traffic stop ended with the police chasing a suspect on foot through East Lansing. The end of the chase was caught on video in the alley of Albert Avenue between Charles and Division. According to East Lansing police, the suspect was pulled over for a traffic stop before he ran. He was chased into the alley where he tried hiding in a garage. The suspect claimed he had a leg injury and was taken to the hospital soon after the arrest. ELPD tells us the man was driving on a suspended license and had a warrant out for his arrest.
Misconduct, neglect of duty, and conspiracy to tamper with evidence. These are some of 3 charges 3 officials are now facing in connection to the Flint water crisis. Flint city worker Michael Glasgow and state employees Stephen Bush and Michael Prisby are the first to be charged. Prisby faces the most of the 3, including 4 felonies and 2 misdemeanors. He and Bush appeared in court shortly after the charges were announced. Documents suggested they deliberately provided false information that eventually led to the city's decision to switch its drinking water supply. Governor Snyder says these charges are deeply troubling and extremely serious.
If these accusations are correct, this would take it to a whole new level. And one of the things we clearly want to pursue is the truth. The citizens of Michigan deserve it. The citizens of Flint deserve it.
According to prosecutors, more people are likely to face charges. We may be seeing an interim prosecutor in Ingham County, with former Senate Minority Leader Gretchen Whitmer expressing interest. Whitmer, who is a lawyer at international law firms, stated her intentions in a letter to the court. The spot is open after longtime prosecutor Stuart Dunnings III went on medical leave after he was charged with 15 prostitution-related crimes. Whitmer did not file to run for the 4-year term as prosecutor, but is rumored to be vying for the governor's spot in 2018.
This week in Lansing, prayers and remembrance marked one of the worst periods in human history. The estimated 12 million lives lost in the Holocaust were honored in a ceremony at the state capitol rotunda. The event marked nearly 71 years since the tragedy. Survivors say it's an opportunity to share their stories and honor the struggles they faced.
So it's something, it's a good remembrance. I come here almost every year for the past probably 4 or 5 years. And it reminds us what we went through.
Attendees also heard about a proposed bill aimed at teaching children statewide about the Holocaust.
This week's ceremony happened during an important time for those of Jewish faith, for those celebrating Passover. The 8-day festival is celebrated in early spring to mark when the Israelites were freed from slavery in ancient Egypt.
It soon will be harder for you to get your snack fix. The Quality Dairy on Trowbridge Road will be closing its doors after more than 50 years of service. According to employees, the building is old and needs renovations. The owner is also selling the property. The store has seen less traffic in recent years compared to the Quality Dairy located on Harrison. The store will officially close at the end of the day on May 7th.
After 3 years of waiting, there's finally a new grocery store in town. Focal Point's Ariel Ellis shows us how the store's grand opening brought out a whole lot of people.
The Whole Foods grand opening was long awaited, and now that it's here, hundreds didn't mind waking up early to do some more waiting.
It's really cold out here.
The line formed at 6 a.m. and by 8:30 a.m., the line grew to 500. East Lansing Mayor Mark Meadows, Meridian Township board members, and Whole Foods team members all welcomed the crowd.
Welcome to your new store! Woo!
And participated in the Whole Foods bread-breaking tradition. The grand opening brought out Whole Foods first-timers.
This is actually my first time ever going to Whole Foods, and I actually just got hired by them 2 days ago.
I'm just so thankful after waiting 2 years that it's open.
Regular Whole Foods shopper Kathleen Carver says she usually has to drive to get the Whole Foods experience.
Every chance I get, I'll drive to Ann Arbor for theirs, or when we're on vacation traveling to Chicago. I've been to several Whole Foods in Chicago, and then I've also been to one in Indianapolis.
You've been here before?
Yes.
The store hired nearly 140 people, all of which were needed for the grand opening.
You out of 30?
Yes, please.
After 3 years in the making, the store is the 7th to open in Michigan. And for the grand opening, customers crowded the store.
We're just thrilled with the response and are overwhelmed with how positive and kind and excited everyone in the greater Lansing area has been.
In East Lansing, Ariel Ellis, Focal Point News.
With Whole Foods now open, healthy shopping options are popping up across East Lansing.
Focal Point's Kelsey Banis gets a fresh take on the new stores hoping to bag your business.
For organic grocery shopper Vina Mandrakar, costs are a factor in choosing where to shop.
Yeah, definitely the price is an attractive thing, definitely. And then, again, it has similar products.
With 3 organic grocery stores in the area, customers have more options.
We understand that Whole Foods came into town, and we're okay with that.
Now that Whole Foods is open, the competition is on the rise for healthy and organic grocery stores like Fresh Thyme and Foods for Living.
Fresh Thyme store director Robert Lychai says it's customer service and prices that sets them apart.
Whole Foods is absolutely a competitor, but we do try to come in at a little bit of a lower price point with quality products.
Patricia Huddleston, an expert in retailing and consumer behavior, says part of the appeal is that less is more.
Consumers are changing, and I think consumers, they're busy, so they want the smaller stores. The buzzword is the smaller footprint stores.
Huddleston says it is all about location for these businesses to stay afloat, and to get ahead, Fresh Thyme is already planning for the future.
We're going to continue to give the consumers in this area and in East Lansing and Lansing exactly what they want, and we're going to keep driving the product to them.
In East Lansing, Kelsey Banis, Focal Point News.
Haven't made it to that Fresh Thyme yet, have you, Erin?
No, I haven't, but I'm excited to check it out.
All right, well, after the break, how students are working with a local group to help feed the community.
And from drones to machines and even virtual reality devices, we'll show you what seniors are designing for the future. That's next in our on-campus report.
When do we give up? When do we just close our eyes and say, that's it? This water's too polluted. This disease too far along. To a Spartan, the answer is simple. Never. Because Michigan State was founded on the belief that our purpose is to make the world a better place. And when you're open to unconventional thinking, value people's differences, and are willing to forge true partnerships, then and only then can you solve the world's toughest problems. Like renewable energy, clean water, and Parkinson's disease. Because we know our true triumph lies in the impact we make on the world around us. And after all, if we don't do it, who will? Spartans will.
Thought spring would never arrive, and one Lansing group is taking advantage of the nice weather and help from MSU students to start off the planting season.
One in the truck. That would be a lot of time to get that one cleaned up.
Warmer weather for the garden project in Lansing means dropping down the tailgate and getting to work. But one group of MSU students is doing much more than that.
We're here to volunteer and make sure that the garden has everything ready for the summer.
These MSU students are trading in their textbooks for a shovel in order to help with the garden project for day of service. William Yaka, a freshman at MSU, says getting out of the classroom can teach students an important lesson.
Volunteering is a big deal, in terms of building character and making sure that you connect to the community that you live in or where you go to school.
These students are sawing, pruning, and hacking away at getting the garden ready for the community to use, one wheelbarrow at a time.
And then just quite a bit of junk.
According to Julie Lemon, her organization, the Garden Project, needs the help of students like Yaka.
They're going to get ready to plant and everything, so we want to help them with the composting and the clearing out trash.
So local families can grow veggies in this garden during the summer.
So that's our mission as a food bank, is helping to provide healthy food for our community, and that's part of the Garden Project's mission here.
And all of this wouldn't be possible without these students giving up their time to help turn this field into a garden.
So they just bring this influx of energy into a space there, and it's really neat too to just see them out into the community outside of East Lansing.
In Lansing, for Focal Point, I'm Julie Dunmeyer.
The Garden Project assists with over 100 gardens in the Lansing area, feeding over 7,000 people.
A warning to steer clear of a chemical spill, plus students showing off what could be the next big thing.
There's a lot happening, and Kelsey Banis is here with the on-campus report during an already busy finals week.
Thank you, Aaron. Connor. There has been yet another chemical spill on campus. Yesterday afternoon, MSU police closed down the streets surrounding Munn Ice Arena after an ammonia spill. The spill was able to be contained, and police advised that there was no threat to the community and that repairs were underway. Graduation is a week away, and students across campus are making their last-minute purchases before the big day. The Spartan Spirit Shop in the Union has seen an influx of students lined up to get their cap and gowns for commencement ceremonies next weekend. Senior Brady Durant was one of thousands graduating this weekend. We asked him to reflect on his time at MSU.
Looking back at my college experience, it's just been very well-rounded, I think. And I think Michigan State has really provided the framework for that to happen, where I've met some of the best people I've ever met in my life.
In case you still haven't picked up yours, cap and gowns are available for purchase throughout the weekend. Just last week, MSU journalism students attended the annual Broadcast Education Association Convention in Las Vegas, Nevada. Focal Point's own Daniel Hamburg won Best of Festival in the Student News Television Feature Reporting category. And MSU faculty member Jerry Zeldis won Best of Festival for her audio documentary, The Living History Project. Two grad students, Amelia Havnak and Shayna Roth, won second place in the Interactive Multimedia category. And Focal Point placed second in Best Student News Magazine. Today was Design Day for MSU engineering students, a chance for them to show off what they've learned in the past 4 years. Focal Point's Connor Hansen was there to find out what they've been working on.
Real world, you name it, it can be done.
And it was being done at MSU's largest Design Day to date, 1,100 students in all.
We have 3 different frequencies going on.
And from writing code to building drones, these Spartan engineers are building the technology for tomorrow.
It can be used for crop dusting, it can be used for reconnaissance missions, it can be used for CASEVAC missions, which stands for casualty evacuation. You can use it for simulating for medical emergency drops.
We're building the future tomorrow today, and Spartans not only will, they do.
Leo Kempel is the Dean of the College of Engineering.
So our students are not just solving challenging problems, they're helping others.
Derek Feed is one of those students.
So the concept for this project was to build an electric wheelchair that could be built using entirely salvaged parts that are available in poor communities in India. So for under $200, you can get a fully functional wheelchair that can provide transportation for a handicapped person in any third world country, specifically for India.
And anytime we can go ahead and...
While other students are taking work and the workplace into another dimension.
This would be useful in situations where maybe someone working with a specific piece of hardware would be at risk their first time, or maybe the hardware itself is valuable and they don't want to damage it, on training purposes.
And these students have been training all semester, hoping to turn these inventions into a full-time job.
Proud Dean right now, having a lot of fun today.
In East Lansing, Connor Hansen, Focal Point News.
80% of the students were doing their projects for different companies and Michigan-based institutions. A unique storytelling project called Dear World visits the MSU Union. Students showcase written body art describing their individual story. The Simple Messages explains how students overcame a challenge and found hope. A portrait session took place at the Union with a photo reel afterwards. Dear World encourages students to tell their story while supporting others.
A lot of times people don't have time to listen to each other anymore, are very busy. We're all students, we're very busy. But this is a time to stop and really think about it and to create connections with people that you usually wouldn't have the opportunity to do so.
The Dear World event visits colleges around the world embracing individuality and bringing students together. And that's what's happening on campus. I'm Kelsey Banis.
Thanks, Kelsey. New players shining at the green and white game and others being drafted.
Plus how baseball and softball fared this week. Madeline Carino catches us up next in sports.
Ever wonder where courage comes from? Where one finds the strength to believe in solutions that seem impossible? It takes a Spartan's will to understand that by working together we can solve the world's biggest problems, from renewable energy to fighting malaria. After all, if we don't do it, who will? Spartans will.
So picture this. You get into your car and the steering wheel reads your fingerprints to determine it's really you before you start the car. As you drive, the sensors keep track of your vital signs. They can tell if you're having a heart attack or stroke and call for help. Think how important that would be for a pilot flying a plane loaded with people. My students and I have been working on the kinds of technology that will make all this possible. It's called biometrics. Biometric systems evaluate faces, fingerprints, voice, and even mannerisms and how we walk. The applications for homeland security are tremendous. As more and more surveillance cameras flying a plane loaded with people. My students and I have been working on the kinds of technology that will make all this possible. It's called biometrics. Biometric systems evaluate faces, fingerprints, voice, and even mannerisms and how we walk. The applications for homeland security are tremendous. As more and more surveillance camera systems evaluate faces, fingerprints, voice, and even mannerisms and how we walk. The applications for homeland security are tremendous.
It was a chance for players to prove themselves to a record crowd of 51,000 for football's annual green and white game. Fans got their first glimpse at some of the early enrollees, including standout wide receiver Donnie Corley. Quarterbacks Damian Terry and Messiah DeWeaver led the white team to a 14-11 victory, but it was Tyler O'Connor who shined and appeared to be the leading race for MSU's next starting quarterback. While D'Antonio didn't name a front runner, he sang praises for all the quarterbacks, especially O'Connor.
But it comes down to decision making, making plays, and leadership. Right now, Tyler, I think, has done a nice job with that. The other guys have too, but they got to be consistency.
The spring game also brought back famous alumni and new recruits to campus. Focal Point's Aaron Eschels looks at an MSU football legend who is hoping to continue his legacy on the field while keeping it in the family.
It's been 50 years since Michigan State hung a national championship banner. But the guys who played in the 60s are not forgotten.
Go into the stadium, you see, and you look up on the rafters underneath the press box, you'll see the number 6566. It's been a while.
Two-time All-American Bob Apisa played during those years. Right now, he's even making a documentary about it. With a quick walk through the Scandalaria Center, Apisa's impact on MSU is clear. And there's a chance his name could be making a return to the field.
Growing up, you know, if you go into his house, it's full of Michigan State memorabilia.
Jacob Asaya is Apisa's grandson. He has a few years left in high school, but he's already caught the attention of universities, including MSU, which has always been a part of his life.
It's like being raised in a Catholic family where you have to believe God. Yes, I had to believe in Michigan State.
I'm hoping that he ends up at Michigan State, and I think he's very comfortable here.
Yet with a father who played at UCLA and half the family as Wolverine alumni, Asaya still has a big decision to make. And at MSU, a big legacy to live up to.
Well, Bob Apisa is a great Spartan. He's a passionate Spartan, but obviously his family is very important to him, and he's raised him right. He's raised him green.
With the decision still years away, Asaya has a lot to think about and other schools to consider.
He'd be happy for me. He'd know that I made that choice and I made the right decision in my opinion, and he would support me.
But if it was up to his grandpa,
I just told him, I said, go ahead and waste your time, but you're coming back here. This is where all the marbles are.
the decision is easy.
I think he hopes for me to become a Spartan one day and to live up to his footsteps and maybe win a national championship.
In East Lansing, Aaron Eschels, Focal Point News.
Asaya said he'd even consider including his grandfather's name on the back of his collegiate jersey. As for Apisa, his documentary Man of Sparta will appear in the fall. But before the game, Focal Point's Denise McMiller was with the team. They were coaching potential Spartans the fundamentals at the annual youth football clinic.
Running plays while playing like in the big times. The youngest Spartan fans learning the ropes straight from the champs.
Oh, I'm loving this. I love when kids come out just to help. It just feels good.
Freshman redshirt Justice Alexander says the fans are what makes it worth it.
Football's all fun. We love the sport, but it's really the fans that keep us going, keep us motivated, keep playing better, and do good for them.
Hundreds of them coming out to learn the fundamentals at the annual youth football clinic. Head coach Mark D'Antonio says having a solid foundation on and off the field is just as important.
Number one goal is to have a great relationship with your family, okay? Make sure that you do everything you can as a group. Planning for the future,
D'Antonio hopes to start the rivalry early. In East Lansing, Denise McMiller, Focal Point News.
Looked like a lot of fun. And for the players who are moving on from MSU, the first round of the NFL draft kicked off last night. Offensive lineman, a walk-on, Jack Conklin, left MSU a year early to enter the draft. He was picked at number 8 by the Tennessee Titans. The second round continues tonight, and quarterback Connor Cook is expected to be picked. The Michigan State baseball team took a break from the Big Ten play this week and squared off against the Toledo Rockets. After breezing through the first 2 innings, starting pitcher Keegan Barr got himself into a jam. 1 out, runners at the corners, ground ball. Spartans go for the inning-ending double play, but they don't get it. The runner scores. Hoosiers are up 1, but the Spartan bats come back out in the 6th. Jordan Zimmerman hits just one over second baseman to score Brandon Hughes, giving MSU a 3-1 lead. They go on to win 4-1.
Overall, I thought, good day. Anytime you get a win, it's a good day. And a little disappointed, I think, in our approach at the plate early, but got better as the game went on, and a couple big at bats, and thought we pitched it well today.
The Spartans now enter a huge weekend series against their in-state rivals, the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan is currently in the second spot and a half game ahead of MSU in the Big Ten standings, which makes this series even more interesting.
It's always going to be a big series, regardless of who is where in the standings. I mean, anytime you play your rival, it's going to be big. And so, if we were in first and they were in last, or vice versa, that doesn't matter. I mean, it's an important series for all of us.
The Spartans and Wolverines are currently underway in Ann Arbor, and they will square off tomorrow at 1:05 in East Lansing, then head back to Ann Arbor to close out the series on Sunday at 1. The softball team ended a 5-game losing streak Wednesday with a comeback victory over Eastern Michigan. The Spartans were down 2-0 in the last inning, but scratched off together 3 runs off 5 hits to take the win 3-2. The team is back at it this weekend, taking on Rutgers for their final home series of the season. They won the first game earlier today, 5-2. And MSU women's soccer is becoming international as they hosted the U20 Mexican national team last week. Both teams are in a series of exhibition games. The women's Mexican team is currently in the United States, playing at different universities around the country. The girls spent 1 week practicing as a team in the capital, Mexico City, before beginning their U.S. tour. Ending the game in good fashion, the two teams tied 1-1 with an MSU goal in the very last minute.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You're playing for a country that your nationality is from, and I just want to make my parents proud and my family proud, and I just think that it's a really good opportunity to visit different places with the national team, and I just love it.
After announcing he would transfer from MSU last month, former Michigan State forward Marvin Clark Jr. has chosen St. John's as his new destination. Due to NCAA rules, Clark will sit out the entire season, and then he will have 2 years of eligibility. Women's tennis started strong in the Big Ten tournament yesterday with a 4-1 win over Indiana. It was the program's first Big Ten tournament win since 1993, and senior Emily Myers became the all-time leader for singles victories. The Spartans look to keep it going again today against the number 2 seed Northwestern, but fell 4-1. And that's what's happening in sports. I'm Madeline Carino.
Thanks, Madeline. And finally, across town is a little house that hosts some big competition.
Focal Point's Eva Nienhaus shows us how the local Yes Center is a place where teens can hang out, have some fun, and even learn a new sport.
Grand Ledge's Yes Center has many resources for youth, from mentoring programs at the middle school to after-school activities. Jay Miller is the center's director.
We have a lot of interest in cooking days, so we'll bake cookies. We got a air hockey table and a foosball table, and we'll go to the movies at the Sun Theater, which is a big one.
And there's another popular activity,
pool.
The availability of pool at the Yes Center sprouts from the center's very beginnings.
I was sitting at a Rotary meeting and listening to a speaker talk about how Grand Ledge really needed a teen center. And that made a lot of sense to me.
Vicki Paskey is one of the founders of the Yes Center, which opened in 2001. Vicki is also a professional pool player.
So the chalk supplies a little bit of friction.
Over her 46-year career, Vicki has won countless champion titles and even traveled as far as Japan to compete.
This is called a break shot.
Now at the Yes Center, the pool legacy continues. Vicki leads pool tournaments here 4 times a year.
The game that they play here is 8-ball.
And being the local pool professional, she's the one that comes in and sets the tone. So when she's here, it's like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to do it seriously, like a real tournament. So everyone has to be quiet.
Vicki says the tournament is a great way for kids to be with their friends and learn about sportsmanship, too.
All they have to do is say yes to a game of pool.
And the kids really are learning from the best teacher around.
When you're at the table, your fate is entirely in your own hands.
And if you make the shot,
you get to shoot again.
For Focal Point,
I win!
I'm Eva Nienhaus.
And that's our show for tonight. Thank you for watching.
We now leave you with the sounds of the MSU Campus Band. Good night.